Welcome to the Woodworkers video on balustrading. Today we're at our retail outlet in Maruka and we're standing on what is basically a typical veranda, and we can see the general components that are used. We have a valance at the top, we have the veranda brackets, the post molds and the balustrade down the bottom. So what we'll do today is see how to measure up for a balustrade and how to fit a balustrade. The valance, the veranda brackets, they're basically all decorative items, but the balustrade itself is usually there for a safety reason, so because of that reason we need to make sure that it's all fitted to the code. It is in the very nature of hardwood for its surfaces to slightly split or crack. We recommend that balustrading be sealed with oil-based paint or sealer within 48 hours of delivery. If slight surface cracking occurs, a light sanding might be necessary, followed by filling and a second coat of primer sealer. So here we are today with Ron. Ron's been manufacturing Woodworkers balustrades now for over 25 years. So Ron, what can you tell us about the balustrade?
Well, Robin, the most important thing I expect is that all the Woodworkers balustrading is all solid hardwood timber. The rails are all hardwood, and the dowels and the slats on the other designs are also all hardwood.
I guess that's really important because I've got a roof finial here, I guess, but it would be the same with balustrading. I mean, this is made out of treated
pine. Yes, that's correct.
And you can see how this is all rotted away.
Indeed.
So it really is important then, when you've got a structural item such as a balustrade, which is really a safety.
It is indeed, yes.
Make sure it's a hardwood.
Yes. All of Woodworkers balustrading is at least 1 metre high, which is the regulation, and there is no gap greater than 125 mil. At the bottom here we have a gap of 100 mil, and here approximately 120 mil.
And that's the maximum that we can go? Yeah?
That is, yes.
And what about between here? We've got dowels.
Yes, once again, the same gap can be no greater than 125 mil, but with Woodworkers, all of our dowels are plotted out, spaced individually on a 4-inch or a 100 mil spacing. Before we assemble all the balustrading at Woodworkers, we make sure that all the ends are primed and sealed. Whether we're using the slat design, we prime the lower ends before assembly, and the same with the dowels. All ends are primed before assembly, which makes for even a more durable product. Now, all of Woodworkers balustrading is made as per panel length, so each panel is individually plotted out. As we can see here, this panel plots out at about 56 mil spacings. So each panel has its own spacings, and this ensures that you don't end up with any final slat right up against a column or a post. And with the slat design, each panel is individually plotted out, and I'm going to do the same here with a dowel design. We do a measurement and then a calculation. We can mark off each plotting point, and each panel is then made individually as per this calculation. They are then bored and assembled. I'll show you now how to measure up for the balustrading. We measure in a couple of places, Robin. Firstly, between the posts here. Excellent. We measure there, and then once again down below at floor level. So this panel would be supplied at 1275 mil, even though the actual measurement is only 1225. So this is the oversized panel. It's made 25 mil over length at each end, and now all we need to do is scribe it, but before we do that we have to check that it's level. Now, that being level, what we need to do then is scribe both the mid rail and the bottom rail at both ends.
So at this stage we've also measured the distance between the post and the slat?
Yes, we have.
To make sure it's exactly the same on both sides, yeah?
That's correct.
So if we were working above 1 metre, what we would need to do is put a strap around the balustrade and secure it from the top. The reason for this is, if we were working here and there's people below, we could actually knock the balustrade off and cause an accident. Another precaution to take when working over 1 metre in height is to put some barrier boards across the front so that nobody or nothing can actually fall over the edge. For the purpose of this demonstration, we're not working at height, so we won't use any safety gear, but you need to keep this in mind if you're using it on the side. So the panel's been trimmed and we've turned the balustrade upside down so you can see the Woodworkers false tenon system. If we have a look at the bottom rail here, we have a little groove in there which the false tenon sits into. This supports the balustrade. The same thing happens on the top rail. Before we actually put the balustrade in between the two posts and fit it off, you need to make sure that you seal inside the groove and definitely on the ends. We recommend a Sickens product or an oil-based primer or sealer to do this. And now we put the balustrade panel back into place. We need to make sure that the slope inside of the balustrade is on the inside So, and the reason for that is a safety issue. If anyone leans on the slats, they don't fall out. We make sure the balustrade is perfectly level, and then on the underside of the bottom rail we put a pencil mark. We then take the balustrade out, get a 25mm spade bit and drill a hole to fit the plug or the false tenon, which is 10mm above the pencil mark. So this is the pencil mark that we've already put on there. Now what we need to do is measure 10mm up and mark the centre of the post, and with a 25mm spade bit we'll now drill our hole. Now we've bored the hole, what we need to do is put the false tenon in position. Before we put it into the hole, we'll put some glue or liquid nails on the end, and then the false tenon just slides in. So now we've got the false tenons in, we've sealed them, we need to put the balustrade into position. The balustrade is located over the top of the false tenon, sits in nice and tightly. So what we need to do now, because this is a mid-rail and not a top rail, is to drill through the mid-rail and put a galvanized fixing nail. Then we'll put the top rail on with another false tenon. Now we get the top rail, make sure it's level, and scribe it at both ends and cut it to size. So as we see here on the underside of the top rail, as we did on the bottom rail, it's been routed out for the false tenon.
These are our standard top rails. They're all spotted gum. This is our square dress top rail, our bread loaf, our colonial ladies waist and our ladies waist. But we also do other specific designs for clients, and we can certainly quote on that. These are some recent top rails that we've done, just to show you the variation that's available.
So we've trimmed the handrail now, so we put it into position. We make sure that it's perfectly level. And then, as we did with the bottom rail, we mark the underside of the handrail on both sides. Then we'll mark 10mm up again and use the 25mm speed bore and put another hole in for the false tenons. So now we need to put the handrail in, make sure it's perfectly level and sitting nicely on the false tenon. Then we drill through the top into the false tenon so we can secure it with a galvanized nail. So there you go, we've shown you how to install a balustrade. What you need to do now is make sure that it's fully sealed and coated with an oil-based paint or clear finish. So here's the finished result with Sicken's oil-based product. So now we've seen how to measure up for a standard balustrade. What we're going to do now is to see how to measure up for a balustrade on a rake, which is on a staircase. Woodworkers is one of the few companies that actually make balustrade on a rake. On a rake balustrade, Ron, what do we do first?
Well, Robin, it's exactly the same as the horizontal panels. We just measure between the two posts, but it has to be down the length of the stringer.
Okay, so when Woodworkers supply this, will it be exactly that length, or will it be the same as the
No, once again, there will be oversized for trimming on site.
Okay, good idea. So we need that dimension. Which other dimensions do we
need? We also need to work out what that angle is now, and we do that by calculating the going and the rise of the steps.
Okay, can we see how to do that?
Sure can. Using a 90-degree piece of material or ply, we need to mark the top of one tread, like that, and the next one down.
So if I'm looking at this, I can see that the tread actually comes over the bottom of the riser.
That's right.
Of the riser,
that's correct.
So
but we do only need to mark it from this point here, from the furthest point.
Okay, excellent.
Now we can then see on those 2 points there that this is the angle that we need. This can just be measured. They're usually 250mm and 175mm. But a correct measurement there will give us the exact angle. If there are no stringers, we can still calculate the angle, and we'll still be able to measure from post to post though.
They're not that easy to install, so we recommend that you use a qualified installer to do this for you. We can pass on the names of these people if you wish.